All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're unpacking the longest federal government shutdown in U.S. history. This was a crisis that didn't just slow things down, it brought the machinery of government to a grinding halt, and in the process, revealed some really deep cracks in the political system. So let's kick things off with just one number: 39. That's how many days this shutdown dragged on. 39 days. It absolutely shattered the previous record, creating this unprecedented period of federal paralysis. And behind that number, well, there's a huge human cost. We're talking about nearly 1.4 million federal employees who were directly impacted. They were furloughed, basically told to stay home, and went without a paycheck for over a month. Okay, so here's our game plan for breaking this all down. We're going to start with the numbers, just to get a sense of the scale. Then we'll get into the anatomy of the stalemate itself. After that, we'll look at the real human and institutional cost, explore the bigger cracks in governance this exposed, and finally wrap up with what the source calls for as a new normal. You know, this wasn't just some abstract political fight happening in Washington, D.C. The impact went far, far beyond government offices. This shutdown sent a ripple effect across the entire country, touching industries and lives in ways you might not even expect. And the effects? Yeah, they were felt almost immediately. And they were serious. Major airlines had to cut back flights at more than 40 airports. Why? Because there weren't enough air traffic controllers on the job. That created a very real threat to air safety. And on the ground, a whole host of public services just stopped. So the big question is, how on earth did we get here? How did the U.S. government find itself in this position? Let's take a look at the political mechanics that led to this incredible deadlock. Well, according to the analysis we're breaking down, the immediate flashpoint was a congressional stalemate over a very specific policy: what to do about the expiring subsidies for health insurance premiums under the Affordable Care Act. That single issue became the immovable object in the budget debate. But here's the thing. The source makes it really clear that the debate over subsidies was just a symptom of a much bigger, much deeper problem. The analysis suggests that even when this specific crisis was over, that underlying bitter polarization in politics was going to stick around. Okay, so we've talked about the politics, but what did this actually feel like for regular people? Let's move beyond the headlines and look at the profound impact this shutdown had on everyday life. You know, the editorial we're drawing from points out that countless normal functions were crippled. And we're not talking about minor inconveniences here. This meant food stamps for people who desperately need them were in jeopardy. Early learning programs for low-income families were suspended. And essential social services that so many depend on just froze. When something like this goes on for so long, it's more than just a policy disagreement, right? The source argues it actually points to fundamental cracks in the American system of governance itself. The whole system was under an incredible amount of strain. And that really makes you wonder, how does this keep happening? Why have these high-stakes, government-paralyzing standoffs become such a regular, almost expected feature of modern American politics? Well, the analysis really zeroes in on this idea of congressional dysfunction. The argument is that the political climate has just gotten so bad that the basic ability to find common ground, that spirit of bipartisanship, has been almost completely lost. All right, so if the system's broken, what's the fix? The source doesn't offer up some easy solution. Instead, it concludes with a call for a really fundamental shift, not just in attitudes, but in the actual mechanics of how we govern. So this gives us a picture of the path forward that the analysis is proposing. On one side, you have what the source describes as one pole of the political discourse. On the other, the opposite pole. And right in the middle is what's being called for: a humane, pragmatic middle path. This isn't just about playing nice. It's about building systems to stop future crises, like maybe having automatic resolutions to keep the government funded, or firewalls to protect essential services from all this political brinkmanship. And the warning here is pretty stark. The source basically says that without a real commitment to working together across the aisle, the very essence of effective governance, the core of it, is at risk of being lost completely. Restoring that spirit means restoring the basic process of real negotiation and compromise. Which leaves us with the one big critical question that this whole crisis forces us to ask. In a political environment defined by what the source calls dysfunction, is a return to cooperative bipartisan governance still even possible? Can it actually be rebuilt?